do you evaluate the progress of global reinsurance in 2023, and what are the prospects for next year?
First of all, thank you very much for having me, Latino Insurance. A great pleasure having this interview. I think recap on what we have seen in 2023 was certainly driven by material hardening of reinsurance terms, not only with regards to pricing, but also reinsurance structures, especially in the property cat markets. If you ask me, certainly we saw material hardening of pricing levels, but I'm still, as some of my colleagues, far away from saying that we are in a hard market phase. As I would see it, it is rather a phase of more pricing discipline and more adequate pricing for risk, which reinsurers have taken, because I think it's also clear from the returns the global reinsurance market has shown throughout the last 5 to 10 years. It was far from being satisfactory. So what we have seen is more an equilibrium the longer the year proceeded. So as far as I see it, especially the 1/1 renewal was certainly challenging, not only for us reinsurers on the retro side, but also for our clients, the insurers on the reinsurance placement sides. And I think the problem for me is less pricing, where I felt we found an equilibrium in the market now, but it was more the missing lead time to prepare ourselves also for the 1/1 renewals. Especially in an environment which is driven by inflation in many of the markets. So I think, reinsurers and insurers alike had difficulties preparing for this new market cycle, and also anticipating increased costs trickling down, also those additional costs within the value chain, also transferring it to the insureds, basically. So what we do see, more orderly reinsurance negotiations and placements after the 1/1 renewal, 1/4, 1/7, which gives me also the comfort and optimism that we have reached some equilibrium within the market. But certainly also what we see and expect for the next year to come, that this equilibrium would hold, that pricing discipline would also be held, because we do think, and I personally do think, that this is also to the good and to the benefit of the resilience of the insurance markets, because no one can deny also increased costs of nat cat events, but also non-modeled secondary perils, also man-made perils, which have affected the reinsurance and insurance markets. And if we don't start also anticipating increased loss costs, trickling them down within the value chain, I think it's missed opportunity and chance for the whole sector to incentivize also governments and societies to cover increased costs of risks. Else we will end up discussing about prices, but not starting also to invest into risk mitigation and measures alike. And this is why I do think, not only from a reinsurance perspective, equilibrium and pricing discipline is key, but also to the benefit of the whole value chain and basically also societies.
What are the Latin American markets in which you are going to concentrate your efforts in the short and the medium time?
Being part of a large German mutual insurer, we certainly want to develop our portfolio in Latin America, but also all other regions. We are actively providing reinsurance capacity. I think this is the strategic plan to diversify our portfolio. Certainly from a matter of scaling and focus, having limited resources within the whole organization. We are a team of 50 people. It's certainly that we are focusing primarily on the 5 big markets, so to say, Chile, Colombia, Brazil, Mexico, Peru. I think The answer to the question where would our focus lie is a bit driven by two aspects. One is certainly we don't have any minimum kind of engagement level, so we are also happy to look at the smaller markets because we feel bringing relevance to the clients there also adds to our portfolio with regards to diversification, especially on the property side. Second aspects, as we are not only providing property cut capacity, but also we are building on our multi-line approach, providing expertise and capacity in specialty lines like agriculture, engineering, marine energy, extended warranty, affinity, and credit and surety. It's certainly also then that we focus on especially those markets where we can leverage on this. For instance, Brazil as a key market for credit and surety, as other markets in the region as well. And also the agriculture sphere is certainly more prominent in some of the markets. So all in all, I think we do have a focus on the bigger five markets, but we are also keen to develop, and we basically already have an existing portfolio in also the smaller countries and markets.
What have been the results of your company in the last year, and what have been the strategies to obtain them?
Fortunately, we feel quite happy with what we have achieved last year. We showed a financial year result of 13.3 million, which left us with a return on equity of close to 9%, despite some impact we have seen from volatility of stock markets and financial markets, especially in Europe, where most of our assets are denominated. From this perspective, we have been quite fortunate not being impacted by major cut events, especially in our markets. If you ask me about the strategies to achieve this quite favorable results and also the strategy driving our underwriting activities going forward, I would say it's far from being rocket science. It's more about building relationships with our clients long term, and I think being part of a large German mutual group gives us the strong commitment to be there the long run, and I think this is also what our clients appreciate. So being there long run, also increasing relevance to our clients with more and more multi-line offerings, starting with property, because this is still the anchor and the driving need and exposure for reinsurance purchase in most of our countries and regions. But yeah, also gaining relevance by offering multi-line support to our clients. Internally speaking, I would say it's more about very basic of reinsurance, which is diversification across lines of business, property and the set specialty lines, but also regional diversification. And where we feel quite comfortable being a small, pragmatic and fast moving carrier is that we are not jockeying for market share, but we can build a quite nicely diversified portfolio across the globe, excluding Europe and North America, which is written by our sister company. So we can really diversify our property cut premium with having peak exposures in Latin America, Africa, Middle East and Asia. And I think this is what is really driving our underwriting strategy and what makes us resilient towards cut activities in single areas.
What lessons did the COVID-19 pandemic leave in insurance and reinsurance business?
That's a question where I think there are also several aspects to answer it. So point A, from my perspective, is that COVID-19 pandemic has shown that the insurance and reinsurance sector is also not always efficient in proactively scoping wordings to an extent which is clear enough to ring fence exposures and risk which needs to be priced for. So I think COVID-19 has shown with, for instance, non-physical business interruption claims arising, not in all markets, but in some to a very material extent, that this is a risk which has not necessarily been explicitly priced for. So I think that is where the reinsurance market also has to play its role to educate markets from a global scale, learning also from some regions which might have been affected by infectious diseases already in the past. I think it's just also what we have seen, that some markets have not been affected from an exposure perspective to the same extent as others. And I think there's where the reinsurance sector should also better prepare local markets to really ensure transparency in wordings to make sure what is covered and what is needs to be priced for. So that's point A, and I think this is where the reinsurance sector and the insurance sector could do better. I also do think that this exactly is the reason why lengthy legal discussions also about COVID claims, etc., just give rise to frustration amongst like insurers and reinsurers alike. At the same time, I think it's also true that COVID-19 has again shown that we need to price in some margin for unexpected losses because black swan events, I think, will happen. And we need to try to ring fence those black swan events to the best extent possible, and to price margin for unexpected losses, because I think the last 5 to 10 years have shown that volatility from a societal perspective, geopolitical perspective, gives emphasis that more of those unexpected events can happen. From a societal perspective, I think that's also a question COVID-19 possibly has given even more emphasis on, is that it becomes obvious that there might be some risks which the insurance and reinsurance sector cannot easily assume just themselves. So I think there's more holistic partnerships being needed to share risks and to make sure what kind of risks are borne by the insurance sector and what kind of risks are borne also possibly by governments or societies themselves. And I think this is what COVID-19 has shown, not necessarily on the insured losses side, but I think all the risks introduced by frictions of supply chains, which has followed also after the COVID-19 pandemic, is something where we still have to find answers on how to share risks across the whole value chain and within the society as a whole. And I think the same questions will also arise, for instance, with regards to exposure arising from substantial cyber attacks, not only on a national but also regional or global scale.
How do the development of InsurTech as well as the use of artificial intelligence affect the reinsurance companies?
That's a question also which can be answered with several aspects. So I'm super convinced that the insurance and reinsurance sector is far from being a very efficient one, especially also when it comes to sharing information across the whole value chain. Also with regards to internal administration processes, etc. So I think there's plenty of space for say further improvement. So I do think that also especially for smaller carriers like EcoRe, without own IT departments, without own business analysts and say programming capacities, that we already have started to work with some service providers, also insurtechs, to support us in increasing efficiency, increasing our analytics capabilities to understand, steer risks within our portfolio. And I think this is where we can do better as a whole industry. I do also think that sometimes people are very pushy in using buzzwords like blockchain, or already focusing on technical solutions. But I also do think that all technology might have an say added value. But I also do think, at least from an internal perspective, that sometimes it's less, say, the artificial intelligence, etc., at least of higher degree, but more also down to earth kind of process integration, process automation, and then based on digitization, which helps us to move efficiency forward. So I think there's plenty of opportunities, but yeah, I think it's also a matter of fact that yeah, it's always an individual kind of approach and unique setups within the companies. And I do, if you ask me, more see this kind of opportunities really in increasing efficiency with regards to internal processes, increasing efficiency and alignment of interest, alignment of sharing information across the value chain. But where I do still also see that apart from that, the personal contact is still key and crucial, and will not be reduced in importance despite all technology supporting the business model going forward.